Welcome to Fire Talk, where we give you the latest and updates on Southeastern University athletics. I'm Drew Watson, athletic director here at SCU, and I'm sitting in Dr. Engel's chair today because he's feeling a little under the weather, so we hope he feels better. Joining me as a special guest co-host is Donnie Smith, our excellent assistant AD for athletic communications. How are you, Donnie?
Doing great, Drew. Thanks for having me. Tough spot to fill for me as well, trying to pick up the slack on this side and take over for you. But, we came off an exciting week, so excited to get the show underway.
Now, I heard that you just had a fantasy football draft. Is that right?
I think that's accurate, yes.
How did you do in your draft, do you think?
Too early to tell. Like any good coach will tell you, you wait to evaluate and see what you've got. You don't want to put a number on expectations. You just want to be competitive in every game and hope to have a chance at the end.
Well, I didn't like my draft at all. We were in the same room.
Should have rolled it back.
I should have rolled it back. In fact, I think I did once. But, our first football game's under our belt. The Fire fell to Savannah State 23-20 in what was a really good game. They head to number 10 Reinhardt this weekend. Now, what was interesting about the game this weekend is typically we get in games where late in the game the score is either we're beating someone pretty good or we've struggled, which the first happens much more than the second does, but we lose our crowd, and that did not happen this past week, which was really fun to see the students stick around. They were into it. I didn't see a lot of people leaving, so that was a really good benefit of a close game. Obviously, you hope we would come out on the other end of that. But what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I think obviously the early turnovers kind of put the team in a little bit too big of a hole to come out of. But again, to the guys' credit, they competed. They didn't fold up. I think they showed a lot of character in fighting back and coming up with a couple of big touchdowns in the second half. Actually took the lead in that contest. And, it's not often where you're a -3 in the giveaway takeaway and still have a chance to win at the end of the game. So kudos to our guys for fighting through that. I thought they showed a lot of discipline at times. And again, just the character. I think there were times in the past where maybe that was a little too much. Once that third turnover happened, you just go, well, it's not our night, and then things get really out of hand. But that was not the case at all.
No, and that stood out to me as well. There were a number of people that told me, man, they continue to fight. Was it 16-0? And there was still fight. There was still starch in the defense, and that was really good to see. Well, speaking of football, we have our head coach Adam Waugh here to give us some insight. We were going to have Coach on last week. I don't know if you know this, but he doesn't even know this. But a hurricane kind of came through, and the show was canceled. But hoping to talk about the game ahead of time. But now we're going to talk about the game post game, and then what the rest of the season looks like. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Yes, doing great.
Well, good. Before we get into football, we like to ask some non-sport related questions.
Okay.
So people know you as the head football coach. We want people to know you for the other parts of your life. So word has it that you are a softball coach. You were a softball coach in the spring. How did that go? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have two daughters, 11 and 10 years old, and they both play softball. And the springtime is kind of my time of year where I can be around the family. So I was the assistant softball coach for my daughter Emma's team. Okay. And I served as the first base coach, which is almost as nerve-wracking as standing on the sideline on Saturday nights. It's a lot of fun. The girls cry a little more than our players do, so I have to deal with that. And I'm not a great first base coach. I ran some girls into some outs at second base when they probably shouldn't have run, but I had a blast, and it's nice to be involved with the community and my daughters, and just do that. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite hobbies.
Yeah.
Is it tough to move back into that assistant coach's role after having control of 125 student athletes?
Yeah, it is, Donnie. I find myself having to pull back on when we go out to practice and they just want to kind of stand around and play games and have fun. It kind of bothers me a little bit, but I pull myself back and say, this is just for fun. Let the girls have fun. So it's great.
Well, a lot of that was you had spring practice. And you're rushing out of here to get to your softball assignment, So it's really cool that you do that for your kids.
Yeah, and it is, and it's as a football coach, there's not a lot of spare time. So I remember when I was about that age, my dad would help out in the spring with my little league team. So I'm trying to kind of emulate his example and be there for my kids.
That's cool. Well, we were talking about fantasy football earlier. Now, in our league, we were looking for a couple spots, and we were surprised that there were no football coaches that jumped in. Now, you're busy. This busy time of year, but
I think most football coaches would tell you that we have enough trouble with the real football, much less fantasy football. So I've done it a couple times, and I found myself enjoying the draft part of it, and then after that, I couldn't keep up with it. Yeah. So, we're locked down. We're here a lot of hours, but some of the young guys play fantasy football, but I've only tried it once.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Yeah, Coach, we were talking a little bit about the game last week. What were kind of some of your impressions? What were some of the positives that you guys were able to take away as a staff from that first contest?
Well, I think you had a good summary, Donnie. I think some of the positives were the defense played pretty well and consistently throughout the game. They were on the field a lot in the first half. Basically, we were on the field for about 40 plays on defense in the first half, and then our offense kind of flipped that and was on the field for about the same amount of plays in the second half. So, I had some people make comments about, what'd you say to him at halftime to get him out? And, nothing really. I think the kids just settled down and started playing how they're supposed to play and made a nice little comeback there in the second half. But showed a lot of fight, showed a lot of grit, and I think it kind of started clicking as it got into the second half. It was just a little bit too late, Drew made the comment about keeping the crowd around to the end of the game, and that's one of the first games in my 3 years here where we had a 2-minute drive at the end of the game, marched down the field, and had a chance to tie it on the last play of the football game. So that's about all you can ask for. Yeah. And we missed the field goal at the end, and that's Joel McGrath. He's a true freshman kicker that scored 8 points for us in his very first college football game. So he's going to be a really good one, and he's going to continue to get better and better. It was just a kind of a tough spot for a rookie to be in. So.
Yeah. Well, he's got a leg. I mean, the distance wasn't an issue.
Yep.
And just pushed it a little
bit. The neat thing about Joel, we went out to practice on Monday, and he got out there really early, went to that same spot, kicked about 20 field goals. So he's a hard-working kid. He'll be fine.
Well, it's interesting. Friday night, I was here putting up stadium section signs. It was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I hear something behind me. I'm like, it was him. It was him and a buddy out there kicking at 11 o'clock at night, trying to get ready for the game. So it was really good to see. Now, coaches don't like to talk about this, blown calls. All right, and there's nobody's going to fine you for this discussion. Okay?
Good to know.
But word has it there was a pretty big blown call in the game. Can you explain what happened? And as a head coach, how do you deal with that? Both as you as the coach and with the players.
Yeah. So they were going for a field goal on 4th down in the first half, and they threw a penalty flag on us saying that our defensive linemen were trying to call out their signals, which I don't think really happened in my personal opinion, but I obviously couldn't hear it, because we have signals to call out on defense as well. They ended up having a false start on their side, but they called disconcerting signals on us as the penalty. It's supposed to be a delay of game, which at that point would have been half the distance to the goal line, still 4th down. They gave us a personal foul and a first down, so a new set of downs. They ended up scoring their touchdown, putting them up by 7 points. So that was a tough one, and it was frustrating to me because they moved along really fast with the penalty assessment. There wasn't really the time to try to get it corrected, and they've since apologized. The officiating crew has since apologized about the call, which obviously is too little, too late. Yeah. But I've done this. This is my 22nd year of coaching, and if you let one bad call drive think that's the outcome of the game, then it'll drive you crazy, because we had plenty of opportunities to win that football game. So I always tell the kids we can't blame it on the officials, and one call doesn't change the outcome.
And when I coached, I always had a tremendous amount of respect for officials who said, I blew that one.
Yeah.
Coach, I blew that one.
Some of them will deny it till the day they die, but this guy was very upfront with me, and he was forthcoming. So,
that's good.
We'll move on.
That's all you can ask for.
Yep.
Let's talk a little about some of the personnel on the roster this year. A little bit older group, had some good retention coming through the spring and after last fall. Who are some of the key guys that you've looked to for some leadership this year on both offense and defense?
Well, starting on the defensive side, we have a really experienced secondary. 2 returning corners, Joseph Bonga and Zaire Webb, have been really good players and starters around here for a long time. Khalid Scott's a returning 4-year starter, I believe, at free safety, and then Aaron Walton is our returning starter at nickel. The secondary is really impressive. I mean, we have basically 4 all-conference guys in the secondary. 5, really, when you count Ryan Cunningham as well at the weak safety position. So it's a really strong group. Linebackers is a new group, but one that's older and doing a really nice job. And then I think we have a really deep defensive line, more depth and experience than we've had in the past. We got Danny Craig back for his 5th year. He's in grad school. We have a transfer named Dallas Anthony from Valdosta State, doing a really nice job. and then a number of other guys playing well at defensive end and defensive tackle. Then you go to offense, and we have some really experienced O-linemen. We have Trey Dickerson, Cody Rand, and Debo Masalis. Been around here for a long time, played a lot of football for us, and they're really offensive line was an area we targeted to really improve this year, and we hired a new offensive line coach in Jordan Heldreth's doing a really nice job getting those guys better every single day. So we're proud of that. And then quarterback's been an interesting. We lost Kalen Wiggins, so Kalen was the conference leader in total offense, and it's hard to replace that guy. So we have 3 quarterbacks that are kind of still battling it out, and Henry Osted, Nate Hayden, and Hudson Jones. And I think we're going to see them all probably play at different times throughout the year. And, Coach Canales, our offense coordinator, is probably going to end up just going with the hot hand week to week.
Well, we talk a lot about culture here at Southeastern, and I've been around this team a little bit and have sensed the culture's heading in the right direction. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing intentionally to make that happen?
Well, I think we're just trying to educate the kids on what we want and what we want in the program. And our culture kind of comes down to unshakable faith, unbreakable brotherhood. That's a motto that Coach Bearfield started when he first started the program, and one that we're trying to really embrace and continue. Obviously, the faith component of our team and the school is really important, so that's a non-negotiable for us. And then the brotherhood is something that is really cool for a football team. We have 120-some kids out there right now, and brotherhood is really important to them. And we know they're not all going to be best friends or everything like that, but they really root for each other. They stick together, and I think it's just a great group of guys that kind of all stick together. And then the other thing is we talk about our type of guy in recruiting, and we want to make sure we get the right people on the bus, so to speak. So our type of guy is one that plays hard, and is coachable and listens to his coaches and does what we want him to do. And then lastly, our type of guy puts the team first, because football, I think, is the greatest team sport ever created. And I think in this day and age of social media, it's sometimes you lose the team aspect of football, because a lot of it is look at me, and my individual accolades. And we're really trying to stress the team part of it. And I think the kids have embraced it.
Well, as you know, when you talk about culture, it's not only a football team culture, it's how that culture assimilates within the SEU culture.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the guys on the offensive line, Debo, and you see them at basketball games. I mean, they're up front. All right, they're going nuts. I mean, Debo's out there with pom poms with the cheerleaders, and you look at it at one level, it's like, oh, that's just a guy acting crazy at a basketball game. But when you really look into it, for me, it's a guy who loves Southeastern. Right. And loves getting involved in other parts of our campus.
Yep.
And so that's really fun to see Trey and Debo doing that kind of. It's those two really. They're the ringleaders of basketball.
And those guys are great examples for the younger kids, because I think sometimes we recruit a player to come in here and he thinks I'm just here to play football. And I think that he's missing out on a great experience if he doesn't ingrain himself in the university overall and get to know people outside of his sport. And I think it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, it's good to see.
I think what it also does is it gives people an extra reason to come to the games. Instead of I'm coming to watch a Southeastern football game, I'm coming to watch Debo, I'm coming to watch Trey, because those guys have been at my games, or I've seen them on El Prado and I interact with them. And along those lines, just even how they interact with staff and administration. I was on the way walking over, cross paths with Zorian Geathers. Hey, Donnie, how are you? It's no longer, oh, I think I know who you are. You work in athletics or something. They're addressing you by name, having a conversation. They understand what you do.
Yeah, and we have some fine young men, and that's the type of guy we want in our program, the well-rounded individual. And we have a lot of work to do on the field, but it sure is a fun team to coach off the field.
It's good. So we got a big road game at Reinhardt this weekend. They're ranked 10th in the country. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about that game, but also past that, what do you see developing this season?
Well, Reinhardt is a quality opponent, and I've kidded with you about giving us a tough early season schedule with some really good teams. But the truth of it is, if we want to be a playoff contender in the future and build this program into that, then we have to beat those teams and we have to play them. So we can't run away from tough opponents, because that doesn't prepare us for postseason play. So we're excited about the challenge. Our kids are excited, and it's when you see that number 10 ranking on it, the kids get excited because they want to knock those type of teams off. And Reinhardt does a good job. They're very physical. They have a system that they've stuck with for a long time. They're going to have a nice home field advantage. So it's really exciting and a great challenge to go on the road against a good team, because kind of everything, you have to just about everything right to come out of there with a victory.
Well, and the moxie that we were talking about that we saw last week in the team, that's going to help them in this kind of situation. I've seen some teams here, not just football, but I've seen some teams here that go up against a team like that, and as soon as they score the first touchdown, the first goal, it's like, oh, this was supposed to happen. Let's, But I don't see that happening this Saturday.
Well, I hope not. I hope it doesn't become that, because I've seen those teams too where it's kind of here we go again. And hopefully it's early enough in the year still that we have a good bit of confidence and that we can bounce back from anything, because it's a 60-minute football game against a good team. So things are going to go wrong and things are going to be tough and there's going to be a lot of adversity. But I trust our kids to fight back through whatever happens. And then, moving on past Reinhardt, we have a bye week early on, which I kind of enjoy, because I think, we've been going at it for a while with camp, and I think the kids can use a little break. And then we hit another road game against Faulkner, another quality opponent year in and year out, and then we get into conference play from there. And once you get into conference, anything can happen.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Wish you the best as you head to Georgia this weekend. I'll see you up there. I think Donnie's going as well. So
awesome.
Look forward to the game.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach. Publix delivery powered by Instacart. Between work and to-do lists, Publix knows your time is valuable. Let them help you regain time in your day by delivering groceries to your door. Learn more at Publix.com/shop. Now, this isn't part of the read, Donnie, but I've heard that Instacart is adding prescription deliveries at a time to be determined.
Oh, wow.
Do you use Instacart?
I've used it once, and it was great, because when you've got a 12-pound greyhound with separation issues and you can't run to the store without it being a mess, Instacart to the rescue. So I'm sure your sources are accurate on that, and I think that's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, and I'm an older guy. I'm 53 years old, so I like to go to the store. I like to pay, but my wife loves Instacart. She just constantly, we'll talk about breakfast. All of a sudden, she pulls out her phone. I'm like, what are you doing? Ordering a delivery. So, they do great. So, we're happy to use it. And I do tell her, order everything else. I'll just run for the bacon and the.
See, I like shopping as well, but I also can't stand crowds. So there's a little bit of both that happens. Sometimes it's good for the online shopping if you realize you got a lot going on and the store is going to be busy Sunday morning after church, or if you just got to run out at 9:30 for one thing. I'm more than happy to just wear that for the family.
Yeah. Well, you're a good man. You're a good man. All right, so Donnie, let's talk about what's going on in athletics this past week. We'll start with men's soccer. The team opened this past weekend with a tournament at home. As they beat Point Park 5-2, then wrapped up the weekend with a win over Thomas University. Always good to beat the Nighthawks. So what can you tell us about the men's soccer team?
Yeah, we can take a look at some of the highlights from the weekend. Obviously scoring 6 goals has got to make Coach Clay Roberts really happy. We talk sometimes that a team will kind of take on the personality of their head coach, or kind of take on what that coach did well as a player. Clay was a defensive player, but this team really has the ability to score, as you see here. Eduardo Venatolo coming through with this goal here to kind of break the ice against Point Park after the long lightning delay on Friday. And then here was my favorite goal of the weekend coming up on the set piece. Marco Pengili to take the corner kick, puts the left foot into it, and then Roque Villegas on the right foot. Probably should have made Sports Center.
Yeah.
Good shot just underneath the top post. And then Gianluca Contegno, who you'll see here, find the back of the net. He ended up being the Sun Conference Player of the Week, finished this game against Point Park with 5 points, scored 2 goals. He's on a breakaway here to set one up, and then also had an assist on a goal later on to Venatolo. Great pass there. Villegas' shot gets blocked, but then here comes Victor Cavalcante, the Lindsey Wilson transfer, to find the back of the net and open up a 3-goal lead. Similar to what we were talking with Coach Waugh, they got into a tough spot early on, gave up a goal in the 5th minute, didn't panic, didn't get concerned, just came back with the next 3.
Yeah.
Point Park to start the second half, came out strong in the first 5 minutes, got a goal, got it down to 1. Southeastern came back with the next 2. So a veteran group that Coach Roberts has, they were able to respond in a couple of tough spots.
Now they've got a big one tomorrow, right?
Big one tomorrow, taking on the Grizzlies of George Gwinnett, the number 12 team in the country in the latest poll that came out about 90 minutes ago or so. Looking to get back on the right track. They've had some up and downs in the early part of their season, but the Fire looking to beat them for the first time. Always been a high-scoring game between these two teams. So especially this year with the way that the Fire were able to score over the weekend, I'd probably expect a lot of goals coming up tomorrow.
Well, and if you can get out to that game, it's one you don't want to miss. That's as you say, there's going to be a lot of offense. The complaint about soccer sometimes is as you sit there for 90 minutes and you see one goal or two goals. That's not going to be that. Doesn't sound like it's going to be that kind of night.
Yeah, and that was the case on Sunday afternoon. It's a 1:00 game, a little bit of a sparse crowd on a holiday weekend. Thomas was on the field for the third time in as many days because they played Friday like we did. The game was stopped at about the halfway point due to lightning. They had to resume it again Saturday and finish that game up and then play again on Sunday after driving down from Thomasville. Yeah. So I think just the way that they had their legs, it kind of led to a lower scoring contest, and those are difficult to work on both sides. Yep. But I think you'll see the high-paced offense back on Thursday.
Looking forward to it. Now let's switch gears here to volleyball. Volleyball team now sits at 6-2. After going 3-1 at the Faulkner Invitational in Montgomery, Alabama this past weekend. They beat Faulkner in the opener in a 5-set thriller, then lost to Reinhardt before coming back and beating Point and Tennessee Wesleyan. This team's jumped out to a great start.
Yeah, doing well right now. I think leading the offense, Grace Petty and Amelia Harding, what they've done, both averaging over 3 kills per set. Grace made the all-tournament team at Faulkner. Both of those girls hitting just north of 200. So the offense seems to be going a little bit. Obviously going back to that Milligan tournament when you can beat a top 15 team, that's really going to help the confidence roll through the rest of the season.
Well, and this is not everybody knows this. This is Coach Goldsberry's last year, and so it's good to see the team, kind of rallying around that. One of the factors, I'm sure, because I personally, I'd really love to see her last season be one that is just a record breaker for her in the program. So it's going to be exciting to see that develop as the season goes on. And
a veteran group too. These are all girls that obviously she's recruited. They've been in the program for a couple years now, so hopefully they're building towards another conference championship here at the end.
Yeah, exciting to watch. Now, cross country. The men's and women's cross country teams hosted the Fire Invitational over at Holloway Park last Saturday, with the men winning their meet and the women coming in second. Now, that's an early morning. I think the game ops crew gets up at 4:00 in the morning, get over there. So props to them. John Perez Dunn continues to dominate. He finished first. Donnie, that's as we said, it's an early morning, but it's also a muddy course. Didn't seem to affect the team. That's impressive.
No, they ran some good times, and Coach Kurtz kind of upped the competition level of this thing a little bit. We've hosted a early season invitational at Holloway Park, I think ever since we've started this program, so about the last 10 years or so, and it's usually been about 3/4 of the distance or so. The men ran an 8K, the women ran a 5K. It's hot and humid. It had rained heavily the night before. Another team in town had a race Friday morning, so the course was a little more worn than they may be used to, but I thought they competed well. And John's running well right now. Ran against Palm Beach Atlantic on both the men's and women's side. The Palm Beach Atlantic women very good. So gave our team, which is going to look a little different this year without Julie out front, it gave them a chance to kind of regroup some things, run together a little bit, and see what that looks like to try and get a better score.
Now, when I'm at a cross-country match or meet, I'm looking at it. I have a tremendous amount of respect for our student athletes because I'm not a runner. All right, I would be the one that had the 0.0 in the back of my car.
There you go.
Are you a runner? I mean,
retired? You're
a retired runner. So you ran when you were up in Indiana.
Ran a little bit in high school. Ran a couple half marathons, and then when I moved down here and it was almost too bearable to move outside, it's like the running thing's just not going to work down here.
Okay, so you're retired.
Happily.
What did you enjoy about running?
Just the challenge. You've got. I may not be able to run that time that the guy first across the tape is going to run, but I've got my standards that I can run against. Can I get better this race? Can I get a little bit faster in this way? So a chance to compete internally, knowing that you're still not that elite, you can still find a way to challenge yourself.
Well, and at some point for every runner, you hit a wall, right? I mean, where it's like, I can't go on. And facing that adversity has got to be a really, really great thrill, facing it and overcoming it. I just can't get over the fact that when there's people cross the finish line, sometimes there's things that happen.
It's rough.
That in the way of losing your breakfast, it's a little tough to watch. For the bystander, you're like, why would you do this?
It's a little tough to do as well, coming from a guy who's been there. So it's not great on either side of that exchange.
But it's the thrill of the whole experience. So
absolutely,
I have a lot of respect for everybody who runs across country. Now, women's soccer, we still have a women's soccer team, right? We've been talking about men's soccer. The women have not played a game. They were supposed to have a home opener last week. But tell us why, this big break for women's soccer.
Yeah, our friend Idalia came to town, and unfortunately with the path that Bruton Parker was going to be taking to and from, there wasn't really a window for them to get down here, play the game, and get home safely. So, and then just the way that their schedule was, they had a home match coming up against Shorter, an NCAA 2 team, over the weekend. So there really wasn't a window to get that game in. Neither team has an opening, so it's probably not going to get made up. So tough one for Coach Caleb to jump right in. You're going to be taking on number 9 Tennessee Southern, a 3-time national champion, on Friday. And then Sunday in Alabama, they'll take on number 3 William Carey, just moving up in the poll. They were the 2018 national champions, and they are a 2-time runner-up. Those 2 runner-ups both occurring in the same calendar year, one on penalty kicks and one in overtime. So that's how close Coach Danny Owen's team has been to 3 or 4 national championships here recently. So two blue bloods in NAI women's soccer. If you're a longtime NAI women's soccer fan, which I know you are, Tennessee Southern may not sound familiar. They were previously Martin Methodist when they won that national championship. So 2 very, very good teams that they're going to be taking on in Orange Beach, which is the site of the national tournament.
Well, it's going to be interesting here. Obviously, we came in, August 1st for preseason and planned to have a game last week. So we've been together. Our team's been together for a while now, developing chemistry. But Tennessee Southern's record is,
I think they're playing match number 6. They just had a game against Bethel last week. So they're 4 games in. I think William Carey's 4 or 5 matches in. And here we are fresh out of the gates.
So we'll be fresh.
We will be fresh.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, just got to kind of work out some of those potential kinks in training. But, I mean, you've been a coach and an athlete. You get tired of playing against your teammates after a month. So maybe they're going to be chomping at the bit a little bit.
And it seems like this team has a really, from the outside looking in, it seems like they have a healthy culture, and really support each other. So it's going to be interesting to see, what we find, when the team takes the field on Friday. But really exciting.
Yeah, another group with a lot of veterans, so they know what the first game's supposed to look like, and they can kind of help calm the nerves of some of those younger players.
That's good, and it's really Coach Roberts. It's his 3rd year, so in the 3rd year, I feel like, the first year you're playing with pretty much another coach's team. The 2nd year it's a mix. 3rd year it's really your team, and so excited to see what Coach Roberts' team looks like this year. So exciting weekend. Now, is there anything else going on this week we should be aware of?
Our bass fishing is going to have their first derby coming up Friday. They're going to launch at about 8 a.m. Eastern in Texas at the Sam Rayburn Reservoir. This is part of the Major League Fishing, the Abu Garcia College Fishing Tour that Major League Fishing puts on. Just a one day, so our 4 boats are going to weigh in their 5 heaviest fish each, and the top 12% are going to qualify for nationals. So spent some time with Coach Marsh on the phone yesterday when he was making the drive over to Texas, and just kind of talking some things and seeing what they were up against. And, you should be able to pull up the weigh-in starting around 4 o'clock on Friday on the Major League Fishing website if you'd like to join us.
It's exciting. It's exciting. Whenever you roll out a new sport, it's exciting. So, them hitting the road on their way to Texas, man, this is really, really, really cool.
There's a lot of learning on our part as well. Just kind of like, all right, what's the logistics of this? What am I going to get? When does it start? How does it work? And it's kind of a nice challenge when you've been at this as long as we have.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, I want to thank you for stepping in for me as I step in for the president. Again, we wish him the best. Hope he feels better soon. And I want to thank you for joining us. As we close the show, I want to remind you to come out, watch the men's soccer match tomorrow night against Georgia Gwinnett. It's a big one, so make sure we fill the stands. And make sure you visit SCUfire.com for the latest news in fire athletics. You can find the event calendar there, as well as a link to watch all of our home games. Good luck to all of our teams this week. Go Fire.
Go Fire.
Thanks, Donnie.